Good morning. We have a quorum, and so we'll call to order the City of St. Louis Port Authority for its regularly scheduled meeting held via Zoom on September 11, 2025. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cone,
Present.
Commissioner Flake,
Present.
Commissioner Liddy,
Here.
Commissioner Kay,
Here.
Commissioner Mason,
Here.
Chair McBride.
Here. All right, and we'll take up approval of the minutes for a meeting held on August 14, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. May we have roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Cone,
Aye.
Commissioner Flake,
Aye.
Commissioner Liddy,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye. And the minutes are approved. Now we'll take up Resolution 25 PT 14 relating to the formation of City of St. Louis Port Improvement District Number 2. Susan, can you walk us through that, please?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. The picture you're looking at is obviously the Jefferson Arms. And last month, the group that wants to or is redeveloping that building brought a request for a port improvement district, and we had a public hearing, and that resolution was tabled. Number 14 was tabled. So we've brought it back. And I don't see anybody from Jefferson Arms. Does Kevin Hertzler?
He said he's in the waiting room.
Okay. One of the developers representatives is in the waiting room. So we're getting him.
Okay.
We're getting him a seat at the table.
Great. And can you give us just an overview of the procedure, Susan, as to where we are from the last Port Authority meeting to this one?
Actually, I'm going to ask Mark Spikerman to do that. He's our the Port Authority's bond counsel.
Sure. Thank you, Susan. Last month, the Port Authority held a public hearing as required by the statute whenever there's an application for a PID district. And there was no action taken with respect to a resolution authorizing the filing of the petition. So that's what's before you today.
And now the representative, sorry, Mr. Sheriff, from Steadfast City, which is the working with the developer, has joined, and that's not. Would you, from Steadfast City, could you identify yourself, please, and would the commission like to hear from him?
Yes, this is Nick Hartzler from Steadfast City.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, if you can kind of give us an update about where we're at this point, this stage, that'd be appreciated.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone's time again this morning. I just wanted to clarify a couple of questions that were brought up at last month's meeting. So I just kind of go through a short list that I have. First, there was a question regarding the uses of the PID sales tax, what it would go towards. There was some confusion of my own cause as to what could be done, what would be done. Brought on by Commissioner Liddy, your question about whether or not the funds could be used for streetscape improvements, kind of the outside. So it's always been the plan that the PID funds would be used for outstanding project costs. This all boils down to the reason we're here is because this project, the total cost went up about 35% from when it was originally approved back in 2017. When our firm was brought on to help the developers, we considered all of the options for how we could make the incentives proportional to the total project cost. Ultimately, we decided that we didn't think it was prudent for either the developer or the city to go back and try to amend the TIF. And so what we came up with was this plan for going through user fees. So that was, that includes this PID sales tax and adding on a special assessment to the community improvement district on the hotel room stays. Now, that said, the project sources are the project uses are going to go towards the costs, just what the project is costing to do. Now, that said, it's always been part of the plan to improve the sidewalk, improve the streetscape. Mike Saramsaki, the CEO of Altera, last month, he brought up that they've already purchased the nice sidewalk tiles that they're planning to install, but they're not going to install those until after the Tucker traffic calming project has concluded. So it's a little bit of both things are true. That one, it's always been part of the intended project cost that they are going to improve the streetscape, and it's always been, those project costs would be funded by the PID sales tax. Another question that was brought up was whether or not the PID sales tax would apply to remote sales made by or purchases by the residents. Just a little bit about my background. Before I joined Steadfast City, I was a senior tax accountant for a couple of Fortune 500 companies I managed the sales tax returns. Most of my time is at Express Scripts, where I managed the filing of about 3,000 annual sales tax returns. So I bring that experience in with my research and analysis to the applicability of these things, just to kind of level set a little bit. There was some dispute as to whether or not the PID sales tax would apply to those residential purchases. If they're buying something from Amazon. While I'm prepared to get technical, I'll spare try to get to the SparkNotes version. Ultimately, I worked with James Morrow and Mark Spikerman to make sure that there is no dispute, that it is black and white, pen to paper. The petition was changed so that it is clearly stated the sales tax only applies to the on-site retail purchases. So the only way you're paying the PID sales tax is if you're going to one of the retail stalls or the hotel. And so that's we've made sure that is clearly stated in the petition. Those were just a couple of the bullet points I wanted to clarify. I'm happy to answer or address any other questions from the board.
Thank you, Nick. And are there any other procedural matters that have changed in texture between the last meeting and this current meeting? I mean, you indicated the amendments to the petition. Is there anything else that we should be aware of that has changed the complexion of this request?
I'm not aware of anything.
Very good. Are there any questions from the commissioners for Mr. Hartzler or any of the staff?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Reese.
Mr. How do I say your last name? Hausler?
Hartzler, thank you.
Hausler, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You said your cost went up 35%. What caused that increase?
The project was frankly delayed from COVID. So just when it was originally approved back in 2017, it's been 8 years since it was originally approved. So, inflation to the, labor costs going up to materials going up, that it's all, boiled down to it spiked that much. That's how much things have changed in 2017.
Did you have a contingency plan? I mean, did this happen before COVID or during COVID?
I mean, I would say the costs were a combination, but both during and after. So construction didn't begin until 2022. So there were a number of delays of getting the total financing stack lined up that led to, it took those delays, and then COVID happened, which tanked the entire hospitality industry for a couple of years. So it wasn't until 2022 that they were, able to feel comfortable moving forward with construction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners for Mr. Hartzler or the staff?
Yes, I have one for Mr. Hartzler. Did you plan on doing the same?
Commissioner Kay?
did you plan on removing the use tax from the TDD and the CID, one or the other or both? Obviously, it would apply to Amazon packages and everything else, putting a burden on the residents of the apartment at 11.679%. You know, even though that's a penny better than what we have been talking about, it's still, you know, it's the top tax rate in the city right now in a residential building.
It's my understanding that the TDD sales tax will not apply to use tax. However, the CID, the Community Improvement District, would apply the use tax. So the residential rate would, for that purpose, would be 10.679.
You know, I've done a little research in the last month, and I sent Mr. Morrow an email that I received from the Department of Revenue. If we, you know, even though you've made a concession for the residents, maybe now that there's articles in the public, if, you know, talking about sales taxes and so forth, which doesn't help sell apartments, I'm certain, as people do their research about where they could live. This would be the top sales tax in the entire state of Missouri at 12.679 at the retail level. And again, my opposition remains steadfast. I'm not going to attach my name and my vote to something that would be the top tax rate in the entire state of Missouri. So I have that data here. The current top tax rate, according to the customer service supervisor in Jefferson City, which looks like James will share that with, you know, for everybody's viewing, is the St. Louis County St. Anne NWP SID, St. Anne T2, St. Charles Rock Road TDD, St. Anne Citywide TDD, and that racks up to 12.238. This, of course, would rack up to 12.679, making it the top tax rate in the state. So the next time this young lady answers an email like this, this address of the Jefferson Arms will be number one. And you know, this is a larger discussion for those that are truly experts, not necessarily, you know, a bunch of port commissioners that are volunteers to be here this morning. This is a serious deal to move the needle to a record in the state. And I hope my commissioners understand the gravity of a vote like this. 12.679 is a percentage on the things that are purchased at that retail level. The target on Grand, for example, is significantly more than the target on Rusty Road in South County by about 3% on everything you buy. So if you had a major purchase at Target, you might start to walk with your dollars, and we'll see how long that Target will survive as a result. So we're doing things that are not helping the Jefferson Arms. As I said last time, I'm very pro-development and excited that you've said that this is going to open in October. And that's, of course, without the PID dollars. So, you know, this is essentially just, again, moving public money to private developer pockets. And I can't be for that. So I'll let you respond if you wish.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments. My response would simply be, this is the reason we're asking for this is to ensure that Jefferson Arms stays open. This is, you know, this was one of the behemoths of a project that, you know, has sat vacant in downtown for decades, and ensuring that the capital stack allows the developer to, you know, remain operational, afloat, and avoid closure, you know, 5-10 years from now, so that, you know, to avoid it going back to becoming a blight on downtown rather than, you know, something contributing to the downtown scene. This is all going towards that. So I understand the concerns, but ultimately, you know, we wouldn't be here asking for this if we weren't confident that the business would still continue to do well with the added PID tax. So thank you.
And I'm just suggesting that your retail business is, you know, an extra sales tax of an entire cent, plus the TDD cent and the CID cent, bringing it to a grand total of 12.679, isn't helping those retail establishments. And you can ask other businesses in the Central West End that didn't survive and so forth. A sandwich shop that was on Euclid. Around the corner, you can buy a sandwich for a lot less of tax. Well, that sandwich shop's no longer there. So I'm talking about the Planet Sub on Euclid. That's part of the BJC, SID and TDD. So there's a lot of examples. You know, we could talk all morning. Everybody's volunteers. So I will yield back my time, so to speak. But I think this is regressive, and we've seen that with the population marching westward out of the city limits, as we are now under 300,000 people. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Kay. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners for Mr. Hartzler or the staff?
I do have a follow-up. So he just said that without this this increase, that Jefferson Arms will not be successful. Is that what he just said?
It has
Yeah,
to.
I think they're closing the capital staff. Go ahead, Mr. Hartzler.
No, please. That sums it up well. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. Can you say that again?
You might want to explain that, Nick.
Right. So it's going into the capital stack of totally funding the project. So if this is not added into it, that means they're taking out additional debt to cover these project costs. That added debt, requires additional, it takes away from the cash flow, which then it puts it at risk. I'm not saying it's going to, cause it to close, but it adds risk to the bottom line of the operation of the project. So this is this similar to CIDs and TDDs. It's a tool to be able to use to help add comfort to the lenders who, frankly, are already hesitant to do projects in downtown or in the city limits. It adds confidence to those lenders that they'll be repaid and therefore can choose to invest in the next project. So it's all about adding confidence to the overall project.
Well, as being a volunteer, and I know a little bit about building, just a tad bit, I'm thinking that the responsibility is on the builder and it shouldn't be on the taxpayer. So I just personally feel that should have been equated in. The risk is always on the developer, not on the taxpayer.
Yeah, I understand that. The developer has taken on tremendous risk. I don't think anyone saw the interest rates rising like they did in the first part of this decade, and really driving those interest rates increasing, the spike in the project costs. No one really saw COVID happening. That really put the entire hospitality and retail industry in question and turmoil for several years. So it's all we're just trying to de-risk the overall investment.
So I guess the Alterra is so concerned about risk that the Post-Dispatch may be incorrect when they said that you are interested in purchasing the Syndicate Trust building. That was a headline in the last week. And that's without the PID being confirmed. So, it sounds like they're moving full steam ahead to buy other buildings. If we pass this, you can guarantee that the PID number 3 will be the Syndicate
Oh,
Trust.
you can't guarantee that, Commissioner Kay.
Well, that's my opinion.
That's your belief. I understand that, but let's keep this factual driven, please.
Sure. I'd like to know if Alterra is purchasing the Syndicate Trust building, or if Mr. Hartzler has any information on that.
We're not currently engaged to assist with that project. I believe I've read the same thing in the paper that you have, that they have it under contract, but I'm not aware of anything else with that project.
All right.
I believe I at one point saw Commissioner Cohn's hand raised. Alderman, do you have a
Commissioner,
question on this?
thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Mason asked a similar question.
Okay, very good.
Chairman.
Commissioner Liddy.
Thank you. From what I understand, the lower half of the building would be hotel rooms. Do you know what the hotel tax rate is for other rooms in the area? Because to me, the tax, even though the user pays it when they go to the hotel or the people that use the facilities on in the ground floor, it's an anti-competitive measure because it's making those places less competitive with all the other places. PID 1 was for the soccer stadium. Once you go in the stadium, you can't go out and buy food. You have to buy at the stadium. This is different. That people have choices. So I'm just wondering, how does the tax rate for the Jefferson Arms for the hotel rooms going to compare with the other hotel rooms within walking distance? Is there going to be a competitive advantage or disadvantage to the people paying for the hotel rooms?
I believe the only difference would be, there are many projects that have CIDs and TDDs on them as well. This would certainly
And
be.
if I could interject, Mr. Hustler, I'd recommend not using shorthand and explaining what you mean when you say CIDs and TDDs.
I apologize. Thank you. There are many other projects that have community improvement district sales tax or transportation development sales tax on them as well. This would be the only one with the port improvement district sales tax. So in that lens, it's a 1% increase from some of those others.
So how would that compare with, say, the hotels 2 blocks away? Is their tax rate lower than what this will be, or higher, or what? Do you know?
It would just be the difference from the port improvement district sales tax. So just the 1%.
Okay.
I must say that I'm really concerned about this Jefferson Arms building. It just seems to me that there are a lot of things that aren't in order, and then just learning that your company is going after other buildings. And even though, you can bring in COVID and a whole lot of things that are probably legitimate setbacks. However, how can you, in honest terms, go after purchasing other buildings when this one, which is a huge building right in the heart of downtown, needs a lot of work and you need a lot of money? How can you, in honest terms, try to acquire another building when this one is still needs financing, still needs money, still needs work? And I live in the Central West End, and there is the Copler Development Corporation is building a high rise on the corner of Lindell and Kings Highway, right next to the 100s. And you're going to be putting apartment buildings downtown, but with the view of the park and the view of the city, how will you be able to compete with the 100s building already being there? And what are your rents going to be? And it just seems like a lot that you have that's going on that kind of doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't make sense to me. And in downtown, in so many ways, I mean, I've watched our downtown area go up and then go down, and I'm very concerned about what's happening in our downtown area. And at the same time, I see how Kansas City is just growing past us by leaps and bounds, and I'm very concerned about that. And I don't see this as a way of competing with Kansas City, even though they do have a winning football franchise, but we did too. However, I'm just really concerned about what's happening downtown.
If I may.
Yes,
Yeah,
you may.
Mr. Hartzler.
Thank you. I would say all projects stand on their own. The building here, the Jefferson Arms, the entity that owns it is Altera Jefferson Arms LLC, and the lenders, they don't invest and lend to a company. They invest to a project. They pick and choose what projects. This project, the Jefferson Arms project, it was in terrible conditions. I'm not sure if anyone in this group ever went through it, before construction began. But it was in rough shape. There were many people calling for its demolition. So for Altera to come in, set up what they could with the capital stack, grateful that the city they were able to work with the city to add TIF to the project, helping to de-risk the overall project and bring it to where now it's within, 5 to 6 months of total completion and activation is nothing short of a development miracle, candidly. So I think it should be important to note that while the parent company, Altera Worldwide, is pursuing other projects, each project stands on its own. So I would want to make note of that these are very different things that we're talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Hartzler. And Commissioner Mason, just by way of background, the tool that we're addressing at this resolution, the Port Pruitt District, that is something that has been advanced by Kansas City and their development community in advancing the interests they have in Kansas City. So it's just, how will we use it here in St. Louis is up to this board and to the individual commissioners to make their vote as they see fit. I don't want to conflate various issues and get up to the wrong result here. But
Mr. Chairman,
Director Williams, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. The thing I wanted to say is that each commissioner obviously has to vote is their conscience, and so I'm not trying to change your mind or anything here. But what I would like to do is to just give a few facts that would weigh on this decision. I think when we compare jurisdictions and what they do, it is important. And the thing that has happened in downtown is that there's been a lack of redevelopment over the last 5 years, and momentum has actually stopped. And that we have companies that are moving out. But what has happened in other communities that we have compared, obviously, is that they are investing in their downtown. Where in Kansas City, they are using the tools. Even the folks in Chesterfield and Clayton are using these tools. And I just saw an announcement, I forget the other community out, that are using incentive tools to try and influence redevelopment.
That's Wildwood. I think you may be thinking of Director Williams.
Yeah, right, Wildwood. And so the issue that we have here, and I think one of the commissioners rightly pointed out, it will make it the higher of all of the tax for individual buildings here. But it is one of those buildings and challenges that we have downtown with all of the historic structures that we have, which most of the citizens would like to see the historic architecture retained. And so in order to do that, sometimes it does take a few more tools, historic tax credits. If it's housing, maybe it's low-income housing tax credits, but it does cause us to have to layer it to try and take on some of the financial challenges that these buildings cause. And so I would tell you that probably 5 or 6 years ago, let's go back to 2017 when this building was first approved for redevelopment. At that time, we had a lot going on, and then, as noted by Mr. Hartzler, several things happened, which included the impact of COVID. And that's just not, now that we look back at it, we just sort of say, oh, COVID, but that was significant in the marketplace, as well as the increase in inflation over time. And so the challenge that a developer has to develop in our downtown or in the city is the comparison of the rents that they will garner versus the rents that they could get in a different location in our region. And so there's that comparison, there's that delta. And I think what we need to do probably is to share some of those with you, as well as the number of businesses that we have lost in the city of St. Louis since 2020 because of COVID and where we are now. And we were able to compare those numbers basically because at COVID, we took a snapshot of all of the businesses that were here. And because of the tornado, we took another snapshot, and we have basically lost roughly 40% of our businesses here in the city. So we have to decide whether or not are we going to, even though this particular building may not be a favorite of anyone, are we willing to help this developer on this particular project? But I'm not saying do it or not do it, but I'm just sort of saying these are some of the things that some of the developers who are working want to work in this city are having. The other thing that happens here is that we have a challenge with permitting and processing here, and so if you talk to the development community in this town or in this region, no one wants to do work in the city of St. Louis. And it's because of the challenges that we've had. We have to change that narrative and change the thinking that is existing amongst our development community and finance community, and try and figure out how we can be more attractive for an area for investment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director
Can I
Williams.
Can I respond to Mr. Williams?
Yeah, we can respond, but if we could just keep it factual, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Wouldn't you say keep it factual or?
Yes, please.
Okay. I appreciate Mr. Williams' comments, our president's comments, and I understand the importance of this, and I understand the importance of stimulating downtown, because I really would like to see a resurgence or a renaissance happen with our area. And I just wish that I had more information. I wish that I could have visited the building, went on a tour of it to see what's going on with it before I give an answer, because I am concerned about setting a precedent in terms of developers coming in and just asking for this this tax increment or this, and it weighs on me because I know how important this is, and I know how important this is to St. Louis and to our region. But I'm just really torn. I would hate to approve something and then 5 years later, here we are again, and people are moving out. The people who sell the sandwiches are too expensive, and then the businesses move out, and then we're right back where we started, and it's just a concern to me. And I would just like to have an assurance and more information. And I do agree that COVID was something different. It was something different, but I'm very torn. I'm very torn because I love my city and I want to see St. Louis come alive. I really do, downtown. But I'm just torn, and I just don't want to set a bad precedent.
There's an implication that a no vote on this is somehow depraving the Jefferson Arms team from something, when in fact they've got a very rich and deep package of TIFs and the TDD and the SIDS that equal the top in the city. It equals ballpark the One Cardinal Way building, which quite amazing. So a no vote is just saying enough is all that it is. It's going to be 11.679 for those people at the retail level, and I'm not interested in setting a state record today.
Okay,
I
excuse
think
me.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes,
Go ahead.
thank
Go
you.
ahead,
I'm
Commissioner Miller.
sorry. I was not here for the roll call. The traffic was a little tougher getting to the office this morning. I am displaced from the tornado. I've been out of my house since May 16th, and we are now living at One Cardinal Way. And I have to tell you that whatever the sales tax is was not a consideration for moving there for the next year or so while my Skinker de Bolivar house is being rebuilt. So as I mentioned last time at the meeting, seeing the municipal courts building sitting there for a couple of decades now, that's a bad look for the city. I am really grateful that these developers from took over the Jefferson Arms. It's a wonderful location. Whatever they are charging, it's what the market will bear. And so if the coffee or a sandwich is cost prohibitive, you will go someplace else. And it's just simple economics, not feelings or, perceptions. So like I said, I'm really happy to be downtown and seeing it vibrant. And now that the Stouffer's Millennium Hotel will be coming down, I see that as more progress, and I'm all for it.
Well,
And I'm ready. If I don't know if I wanted to add my name that I was present since I missed the roll call.
Yes, we have
Thanks.
recognized that. Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Mr. Spikerman or Mr. Morrow, with the amended petition for the Port Improvement District being circulated after the agenda, would there need to be any amendments to the resolution or approval of that petition?
I don't believe so. The resolution notes the petition is presented, and the most recent version of the petition is the one that was circulated to the commissioners. We can attach it as an exhibit to the resolution for clarity of the record.
I think that'd be appropriate. Yeah, just so there's no confusion.
Right.
All right. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve Resolution 25 PT 14.
I have a question.
Alderman Cone.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Liddy had his hand up before I did and before you called the roll call on the this resolution, but I also do have some questions, but I defer to Commissioner Liddy because he had his hand up before.
Please proceed. And I did not see your hand up, Commissioner Liddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is, how could try to phrase it logically? The top half is going to be rental units, and for a normal landlord, you usually have about 10% unoccupied. It's just turnover and all that. So if the top half is 90% occupied and the hotel is fully occupied because of events and all that, do you really need the PID to recoup your costs? Or what's the kind of like a break even? Or can you survive with half the units being rented and half the hotel being used, or does it require 100% occupancy of both? Do you understand my question?
I do. Thank you. And I very superficial, point, but the way the property is actually divided between the apartments and the hotel, the apartments, it's almost like a vertical line instead of a horizontal line. So the apartments will front Tucker, and the hotel rooms are kind of behind it. It's a neat building because it has two courtyards in it, so the hotel rooms will kind of look to the south, north, and west. I just want to make that quick superficial clarification. Within our model for how the project will succeed, we actually assume that the hotel vacancy rate is about 32%. That is, so occupancy would be about 68%. That's what we believe would be the stabilized occupancy rate for the hotel. The apartments similarly would it's modeled out to have about a 80 to 85% occupancy rate. So these are that's kind of what's modeling, and having the PID, the Port Improvement District sales tax layered in there. All of these things combined, we believe the project will be successful. You take out any of these things, if occupancy decreases, or if the the Port Improvement District sales tax is, you know, not in place, that just, it adds a risk that the project defaults and, you know, ultimately the whole thing closes up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Alderman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, respectfully, I continue to get feedback that hotel occupancy is a challenge downtown. We haven't had the convention business this year, and the kind of predictions for next year is that the convention business isn't going to be that great downtown either. So how are those, you know, factors being, you know, taken into consideration with those numbers? And, you know, this building is still probably, you know, all told, maybe 12 or 13 blocks away from the convention center. So when you factor that in, you know, how are you all, you're about 12 blocks away from the soccer stadium, 12 blocks away from the baseball stadium, you know, I mean, maybe, you know, close proximity to the, you know, Keel Auditorium and, you know, whatever they're calling the Scott Trade Enterprise Center that's over there, the Blues Stadium, the hockey stadium. You know, but to my recollection, you know, hockey games aren't really bringing in a lot of, you know, crowds. Maybe the concerts that they have there might, but how are you all going to be targeting clients for the hotel when there's probably, you know, over 10 hotels downtown that are going into receivership right now? So, you know, irrespective of, you know, the incentives that we're offering here, you know, the hotel business downtown has just been struggling for the past, you know, since the pandemic, but has not been great last year, this year, and predictions for next year aren't that wonderful either.
Thank you. I would say, you know, ultimately, you know, it comes down to marketing, which is a totally different mindset than what I'm, you know, that, you know, I'm an accountant by trade, you know, so if they let me do the marketing, they probably would close. But you know, they have a great team that is in, you know, doing that. You know, they've been active on social media, you know, pumping up both the hotel and the apartments. I'd say that the neat thing about the developer is that when they choose a project, they put a concept into it, and so the concept here has been special events. And you know, when it opens, it will have the what we believe is the largest historic, that's the key adjective there, the largest historic ballroom in the state of Missouri. And so, you know, marketing towards those special events that where they're bringing people in for weddings. They've fortunate to have their first wedding booking that'll take place in December 2026. That, you know, having the project be right on Tucker, so it's easy access to, you know, the highways and to the rest of the city. I think that is a good piece on it. And you know, mentioning the other downtown hotels that have gone into receivership. It's hard to get into exact specifics, but I would argue that the reason, you know, one of them was because of a partnership blowing up. Is why that one did, you know, failed. Other cases were, you know, I would say because their capital stack didn't line up, where they didn't have access to certain tools that, you know, added risk to the bottom line, and therefore they defaulted on their debt. So again, I think it comes back to that point of trying to use the tools that are available to help secure the project, to make sure that it doesn't end up like one of those other projects.
I mean, I think it could be argued though that each one of those, when they, you know, were being developed, came before the city and got the available incentives that were afforded to them for their projects in that moment. So, you know, I mean, I don't know if that necessarily floats water with me. I'm legitimately very torn on this particular resolution. I hear, you know, Director Williams, and I agree with him. You know, and so, you know, I think everyone wants to see downtown succeed. we want to create an environment where people feel comfortable investing, their time, money, sweat, tears, blood, all of that into rehabbing these historic structures downtown. I've always advocated for, targeted investment in downtown. And I supported the expansion of the, port district that would, partly because of that expansion, allows these types of incentives to be offered throughout the city, or at least in the, within the boundaries of the district. I actually specifically worked with Director Williams on getting expanded into the third ward so that we could possibly use these types of incentive programs and create PID number 3 for Cleveland High School and the redevelopment of that. So, I'm not opposed to utilizing these types of incentives, but where I struggle, Director Williams, you and I have had this conversation over the years. We constantly are competing with Clayton, University City, Chesterfield, Wildwood, even De Pere, who utilize, TIFs and, tax abatements and community improvement districts and, affluent parts of our region. And here we are having to compete for those same resources, which, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty over that, but it boils down to we have a very fragmented and broken regional government system. The city and the county are always competing for the same resources, and it is aggravating as hell that when Chesterfield uses these incentives, they get praised for it. And when the city uses these incentives, we get bashed over the head for it. And we're the ones that literally these incentives were designed for, as the city of St. Louis, where we've had disinvestment for decades. And, these resources are need. Whereas Clayton uses these same exact resources, to build a skyrise for Centene and an affluent downtown community. They did a $40 million tax abatement for Centene. No one's bashing the Clayton City Council or the St. Louis County Council and their TIF commission over the head for doing that. Chesterfield is talking about building a $2 billion downtown, with Saks Property and TFH and all of these other, affluent developers out in the county. Chesterfield Mall is going to become a new downtown. They're talking about using these exact same incentives. When that happens and it gets out into the media, people are like, oh, Chesterfield's winning, but when we use the same incentives in the city, it's like, oh, the city shouldn't be doing these types of things. And I hate that happens. And it's because we have a broken, fragmented governance structure in this region. And I wish more people would talk about that. But where I become even more torn on this is where we have, the hotel industry is, struggling downtown specifically. And adding more rooms to that isn't going to make it any better. So, and then of course there's always like the but for, we've already started the project's underway. And here we are coming back to the trough, so to speak. And I hear the developer, needs these because of increased project costs and things of that nature. I really get frustrated and struggle with this. And Nick, I appreciate you all trying to work with the commissioners here and, making certain accommodations or concessions to address some of the concerns that have been brought forward. But I also just want to be clear here. Are we just establishing the PID, or are we actually, like, how would the increase in taxes occur through the PID? Is that through this resolution, or will there be a separate resolution, or is that done some other way?
I can address that if you like.
Sure.
Please, Mr. Sprackman.
Yeah. If you authorize the PID to go forward, we file a petition with the court. The court determines that it's not illegal, and then it goes to a vote of the property owners to actually impose. Once the PID is established, the developer and the port would have to enter into a development agreement of some sort to identify the costs and the mechanism in which the sales tax would be made available to the developer to reimburse them for eligible expenditures.
So who's responsible for that particular step? What happens there?
What
Does
happens
that,
there?
is that a resolution that comes back
Yeah,
before
it
us?
would, you would have another resolution to approve that development agreement.
So the development agreement is where it would essentially establish what the tax rates would be and,
The tax rate would be 1%. That's
okay,
what's in the petition that's before you. That's what would be filed with the court, and presumably the court would say, you know, this is the rate that will be presented to the voters. And the voter being the only property owner.
the only property owner, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I really am challenged with this one, to be completely transparent. You know, I think that, you know, in my experience, you know, what I have told people publicly for many years now, you know, one, you know, hotel projects, I'm not super, you know, in favor of. We did a hotel survey several years ago, and that survey, you know, or study rather, you know, concluded saying that the city of St. Louis doesn't really need more boutique hotels. We need more convention hotels that have higher you know, room counts and, you know, more ballrooms that are larger capacity, that are closer to the convention center. So, you know, the Railway Exchange would be a really great example of something that could become a convention hotel where you have, you know, over 800 rooms. You've got large ballrooms that can complement the convention business that's going on at the center. So throwing these types of incentives at hotels is a challenge when it's not directly aligned with what these studies that we've paid, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for are recommending. And then, you know, I always kind of lean into like the but-for test with these types of incentives as well. And I struggle because this project is already underway. It's, you know, probably pretty close to completion at this point in time. You know, given we're 8 years in, so relatively close to completion. Um, it, Otis, help me out here. I'm really like, what's your best sales pitch?
You should Otis be selling?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
he's not
well,
selling. Commissioner
I
Kay,
know.
he's explaining the resolution.
I
Yeah,
heard you guys.
so I am not going to sell one way or the other. My point was to just make a point of the need that developers in downtown St. Louis have that others in the region do not have. And so that the key point here is that if we want to continue to see development, we will have to make decisions, we being this board, other boards, the Board of Aldermen, the mayor, you know, the city has to make a decision about the investments that are needed to help with changing the trend that we are in at this moment. And so what we have at this moment is this building that started 8 years ago that has a challenge financially that the developer and Steadfast City, the consultant, is trying to say they need help. But the board needs to, you know, now hearing all of the, you know, input from the developer and his consultant and the other discussion around here. Each of you vote your conscience. You know, my thing here is that I would like to see redevelopment continue, and I'd like to see the development community have more confidence in the city. There are things that we can turn around that is causing this down. You know, one is addressing the crime issue. One is addressing how we engage with the developers as far as permitting, as far as getting things done quickly, being responsive to their needs. Those are the kinds of things immediately that we could do that will help facilitate it. The other thing is just having a set process. You know, we have over the last few years decided to we established a very sound process that have benefits, economic benefit document that developers are complying with. But then we get into
You're welcome.
yeah,
Exactly.
we get into the legislative process, and then the developer thinks that he has done everything that's required, and then we have one more requirement. So I'm just saying that we have to be consistent. We have to be able to, comply with and stay within our own processes that we publicize. We have to tackle the crime. We have to address the infrastructure that we have, and we have to work with the finance and investment community to make sure that these opportunities are attractive.
I guess let me, if I may, Otis, can I maybe be a little more direct in my questions? So, should we be incentivizing these smaller hotels with less than 300 rooms when the hotel study that we paid for, or the CVC paid for rather, says that we already have enough of those types of hotels and we need larger scale hotels. So when we pay for a study, or the region, pays for a study, and that's the feedback, should the city be incentivizing these smaller hotels?
To be honest, I have not seen that last study since I've been back, but I will take a look at it. But generally, said that you always probably need a mix of you always need to have a convention hotel for sure, which is why the Marriott Grand was supported. But in order for the convention trade to grow, there is the study probably did say that there should be another. But I'm not certain that it would say that, the smaller hotels are not important as well, because they are sort of feeder, and it provides for a mix of products for people to choose from for convention attendees. And so again, this is an individual decision for each of you to make, but all of the redevelopment that would occur in downtown is important, as it would bring jobs and opportunity for those that many of us are trying to help.
And then Nick, so without this, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I inquire of Nick?
Please proceed, Alderman Coe. And then I also understand that after you proceed, that Commissioner Mason has her hand raised.
Okay. So Nick, in the event that this doesn't happen, and I'm not foretelling, how all of my colleagues are going to vote here, but what happens? Are you all going to come back and try and revisit the TIF, or Sid, or or are you just going to kind of like move forward with the project and throw caution to the wind?
We would have to reevaluate everything. We'd have to, take a look at the numbers and see how the project is going to, cash flow. I'll say if, it's hard to look to the future, but for in that situation, but it certainly adds a lot of risk to the project not ultimately succeeding and staying open, 5-10 years from now, which would have a lot of other pretty big consequences to it. So not to sound too grim, but it's hard to predict that. My short answer, it adds a lot of risk that, the overall project financing would be upended.
But would you all go back to, trying to amend the TIF?
My understanding of the TIF process, I don't think that would be an avenue we could take, just based on. Then we would have to look at it. I'm not aware of there really being an avenue to go back and amending it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's my questions for this morning. Appreciate everyone's indulgence.
Thank you, Alderman Cone. And if something else comes to mind, we won't hold you to that. Commissioner Mason.
This will be my last question. So how many, when is your scheduled date of opening?
So kind of looking at it, there's three different elements to the project. I believe the apartments will begin, opening up to, they've been pre-leasing the apartments, so people will be able to start moving into the apartments by the end of October. The hotel property will be turned over to the hotel operator at the beginning of November, and they have about a month and a half run up time to actually get their systems in place, all their computer systems, getting the locks and the doors all set up. And they've begun taking hotel bookings. I believe December 21st is the first night that people are able to stay in the hotel. And then the last component to open will be the ground floor retail. That's really the biggest part that's trying to get completed. And they're targeting sometime in the first quarter of 2026 to open that. So I think we're hopeful for January, but recognize that there could be additional delays that pop up, but sometime in the first quarter of 2026.
How many applicants do you have for your apartments?
So I don't have that in front of me. Right, I'm not aware of that. That would be a question for the developer.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I don't have that number in front of me. I can ask the developer how things are going with that.
Okay.
I'm not aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Liddy, I recognize your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember about a year ago, I was looking at my colleague and I were looking at the website and looking at the apartments, and I recall the apartments were going to be priced between like $3,500 to $5,500 a month. Is that still the case? And if that's the case, what demographic are you targeting these apartments to? Because that seems to be rather high.
I don't think there are any apartments that are anywhere close to that. I'm not sure what was there. Maybe that was when they were getting their leasing website up and running, and there was some default, numbers in there. But the off the top of my head, their rental rates are somewhere between $1,000 a month to, I don't believe there's any that are over $2,000 a month.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right. And I'm going to do a last call for any commissioners for any questions. Very good. Seeing none, then at this time I would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 25 PT 14.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Cone,
No.
Commissioner Flake,
Yay.
Commissioner Liddy,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
No.
Commissioner Mason,
No.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye. And the motion passes with the majority of the commissioners voting aye. Thank you, Mr. Hartzler.
Thank you.
This time we'll take up Resolution 25 PT 23 relating to the FY26 administrative grant from MoDOT. Susan, you can walk us through that, please.
Yes, MoDOT gives the port authorities a small sum of money every year and for admin costs, and occasionally they find extra funds, and then they'll pool all those kind of remnants of whatever they funded prior, and they'll put that into a kitty and divvy it up. And so before you is a request to add several $100s to what the amendment said initially, because since that, I'm sorry, resolution, since that resolution passed last month, the state informed us that there was several hundred extras. So we'd like to revise the amount that we will receive for that admin grant from the state, FY 26.
Very good. So bookkeeping, is that the $474.38? Is that
Yes.
okay? Any questions for Susan on this resolution? Thank you. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve resolution 25 PT 23.
So moved.
Second,
Properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Cone,
Aye.
Commissioner Flake,
Aye.
Commissioner Liddy,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye. And the motion passes and the resolution is approved. All right. Do we have anything in open agenda?
I don't.
Very good. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 9, 2025. If there's nothing else before this board, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. The items on our agenda are concluded. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.